Ever get this feeling? Like something huge is about to happen in the world. Like some massive shift is going on. And not just some ordinary change, but something way bigger, way deeper.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Like we're not just turning a page, but starting a whole new book. And that's exactly the kind of energy we're tapping into today, right?
Yeah.
With this deep dive into Lee Carroll's The Alchemy of the Human Spirit.
Right on. It really is an exploration, isn't it? It's about how our consciousness, our potential as humans is changing, and how it might be evolving right alongside the Earth itself.
It's wild. Carroll talks about, well, everything. Earthquakes, meditation, auras, even Atlantis. But he ties it all together, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Connects it all back to this idea of a new human that's emerging.
Absolutely. It's a term you're hearing more and more these days. And Carroll, he describes this new human as someone who is experiencing a weakened duality.
Okay, now I notice some people that might sound, well, a little out there.
Okay.
So break it down for us. What exactly does weakened duality even mean?
So think of it this way. We often walk around with this feeling of separation. Like we're separate from our intuition, from each other, from something bigger than ourselves. Right?
Yeah, I've totally felt that. Like we build up these walls in our minds.
Exactly. Those walls, those are part of the duality. But the new human, they're starting to break those walls down. Imagine feeling deeply connected, completely in tune with your own inner wisdom. You just know what feels right, without a doubt. That's part of it.
Like a deep inner knowing.
Exactly. And it goes beyond us as individuals, too. It's about feeling this deep connection to the people around us, to nature, to the planet. Like we're all part of something much larger than ourselves.
It reminds me of that feeling you get when you look up at the stars, You feel how vast the universe is, but you also feel this sense of belonging, of being part of it all.
That's a great way to put it.
But Carroll doesn't stop there. He takes this idea of a weakened duality, and he connects it to something even bigger. The idea of humans as co-creators of reality.
And that's where things get really interesting. Because it's not just about feeling connected, it's about recognizing the power we each have to shape our own lives and to shape the world around us. Our thoughts, beliefs, actions, they all contribute to the reality we experience.
So we're not just along for the ride, we're actually holding the steering wheel.
Exactly.
But wow, that's a lot of responsibility, isn't it? Does that mean that if we're all co-creating, are we also to blame for everything bad that happens in the world?
That's a great question. And it's important to remember that it's not about blame. It's about shifting our perspective from powerlessness to empowerment. Instead of feeling like victims of circumstance, we can choose to focus our energy on co-creating solutions, healing, positive change.
So it's about taking responsibility, but not in a blaming way. It's more about recognizing our own agency, our ability to make choices that contribute to a better world. But how does that actually work in daily life? Like if I'm feeling stressed about work or worried about what's happening in the world, how do I tap into this co-creative power and actually make a difference?
Carroll talks about 3 key elements: intention, action, and trust.
Okay, let's break those down.
So it starts with setting clear intentions for what you want to create. What do you want to see more of in your life and in the world? More peace, more joy.
A healthier planet.
Yes. It's about aligning yourself with those positive outcomes. Then it's about taking action. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Even small steps in the direction of your intentions can create powerful ripples.
So it's about doing something, anything, to move toward that vision.
Yes, and then finally, it's about trusting the process. Trusting that you are supported, that you're not in this alone.
Trusting that the universe has your back, in a way.
Exactly. And it's really interesting, this whole idea of co-creation, it might even help to explain some of those, unexplainable experiences that people have, those moments that seem to defy logic or reason. Carroll, he actually uses the word magic.
Okay, magic.
Yeah.
Now you've got my attention. But I'll be honest, a part of me wants to stay grounded in what I can see and touch. So how does Carroll approach this idea of magic in a way that doesn't seem too, out there?
He connects it back to ancient traditions. The shamans, the healers, they were often seen as keepers of this hidden knowledge, right? These special abilities. But Carroll suggests that this wisdom, this power, it's not limited to a select few anymore. It's available to all of us, waiting to be unlocked.
So you're saying we all have the potential to be like modern day magicians, bending spoons with our minds.
Maybe not bending spoons, though I wouldn't rule anything out. But seriously, Carol suggests that as we raise our vibration, our consciousness, we start tapping into abilities, into a level of awareness that might have seemed impossible before.
Like seeing auras or predicting the future. Okay, I'm trying to keep an open mind here, but it's a lot to take in. What are some practical examples of this magic manifesting in the world today?
Well, think about intuition, that gut feeling you get that turns out to be right, even if you can't explain it logically. Or those moments of synchronicity, seemingly random events that are just too perfect, too meaningful to be coincidence. Carol argues that these aren't just flukes. They're glimpses into a deeper order, a hidden intelligence that connects everything.
So it's about paying attention to those subtle cues, those moments that make you go, whoa, what are the chances? Because they might be more than just random.
Exactly. The more we awaken to this possibility, the more we open ourselves to experiencing the world through this lens of wonder and possibility. It's like realizing that the world is full of hidden doorways, and we hold the keys.
I love that image. Okay, so we're starting to paint a picture of this new human, right? They're connected, they're co-creating, and they're potentially tapping into this whole new level of awareness. But if this shift is happening, why does it feel like there's still so much chaos and uncertainty in the world? How do we deal with all the fear and anxiety without getting completely overwhelmed?
That is such an important question. And Carol, he doesn't shy away from the very real challenges that we're facing. But he also emphasizes that we're not meant to live in a constant state of fear. We always have a choice.
A choice in how we respond to those challenges. A choice in how we channel our energy. And ultimately, a choice in what kind of world we want to create, even in the midst of uncertainty.
Yes. And you know, sometimes it's in those moments of greatest uncertainty that we receive the most powerful guidance. Those little winks from the universe, Carol, he calls them synchronicities.
Those meant-to-be moments that send chills down your spine. We've all had them. Tell me about some of the examples from the book that stood out to you.
Oh, there are so many. He talks about people getting phone calls at just the right time, having chance encounters that lead to life-changing opportunities, or even finding lost objects in the most improbable ways. It's like the universe is always speaking to us if we know how to listen.
Okay, but how do you know if something is truly a synchronicity or just a coincidence? It feels like a fine line sometimes.
That's where trusting your intuition comes in. Does it feel different? Does it give you goosebumps? Does it feel charged with meaning? Pay attention to those subtle cues. That's your internal guidance system.
It's like learning to trust those whispers from the universe, even when they seem small or insignificant.
Exactly. And you know, Carol tells this really interesting story about a man named Philip who was incredibly passionate about fishing. It was his thing.
Okay.
But it never really worked out the way Philip hoped it would. And it wasn't until he finally surrendered to a different calling, one that was more about leadership and service, that he found his true path.
So sometimes those synchronicities, those nudges from the universe, they might lead us down paths we hadn't even considered before.
Absolutely. And it's in trusting those nudges, even when they scare us or challenge our comfort zones, that we often discover our true purpose. It's like there's this bigger plan unfolding, and we each have a unique and important role to play in it.
It's a powerful reminder to trust the journey, even when we don't have all the answers. But here's a question for you. Carol talks about this merging of science and spirituality. He even suggests that what we once considered paranormal might just be a reflection of aspects of reality that science hasn't fully grasped yet. So how does he bridge that gap in the book?
He points to some pretty fascinating scientific anomalies, things like crop circles, the recurring number 9944, even the very structure of the universe itself. And while Carol doesn't claim to have all the answers, he presents these anomalies as evidence that maybe, just maybe, our current scientific understanding isn't complete.
Okay, crop circles. I'll admit that one always makes me a bit skeptical.
And that's okay. The point isn't to convince you that aliens are making elaborate designs in cornfields. It's about opening our minds to the possibility that there's more to reality than meets the eye. What if these anomalies are glimpses into dimensions or forces that we're only just beginning to understand?
So it's less about having all the answers and more about approaching these mysteries with a sense of curiosity rather than just dismissing them outright.
Exactly. And to that point, Carol introduces some fascinating people doing some really interesting work in this area. People like James Watt and Randy Masters, who are exploring the hidden connections between numerology, geometry, music, systems that hint at a deeper order, a deeper intelligence woven into the fabric of reality.
It's like they're cracking a cosmic code.
Right?
It's like trying to understand this whole other language, and we're just starting to learn the alphabet.
It's true. But the amazing thing is we all have that capacity within us to learn that language. It's not just for, scientists or mystics. It's about tapping into that inner wisdom that we all have.
And that takes us to another really important concept that Carol emphasizes, which is, the inner child.
Yes.
Now, I know when some people hear inner child, they think about, actual children.
Right.
But we're not talking about, throwing tantrums in the grocery store, are we?
No tantrums, hopefully. It's not about regressing or acting childish. It's more about reconnecting with that part of ourselves that is just pure joy, that pure essence that we all have inside. Think about when you were a kid. What did you love to do? What made you come alive?
Building forts.
Yeah.
Digging in the dirt. Just getting lost in my imagination for hours.
Exactly. And those are the things that often get pushed aside, as we become adults. Deadlines, bills, to-do lists. And that's exactly why Carol feels it's so important to reconnect with that inner child. It's not just about having fun, although that's a great perk. It's about tapping into a source of creativity and resilience, wisdom even, that can help us through those challenges, those adult challenges we all face.
He even goes as far as to say that by embracing our inner child, we can actually start to break free from old patterns, limiting beliefs, things that are holding us back, maybe without us even realizing it. How does that work?
Think about it. Children, they're naturally open, trusting, adaptable. They look at the world with the sense of wonder and possibility. But as we grow up, we start to accumulate all these beliefs and experiences that can make us afraid. Afraid to take risks, afraid to express ourselves fully.
We lose that sense of fearless exploration.
Exactly. And the more we connect with that playful, joyful part of ourselves, the easier it becomes to let go of those old beliefs and step into our full power.
It's like we're giving ourselves permission to be free, to be who we truly are.
Yes. And here's what's really cool. When we heal those old wounds and embrace that more joyful, childlike perspective, it doesn't just stay with us, it ripples outwards.
It's like that saying, when you heal yourself, you heal the world.
Exactly. And Carol actually shares a great example of this in the book. He tells a story about a character named who brings comfort and hope to people during a hurricane just by being playful and spreading joy. It's a beautiful reminder that even small acts of joy and humor, they can have a profound impact, not just on ourselves, but on the world around us. Remember, we talked about co-creation. This is it in action.
Yeah, that's a great story. And it really highlights how important it is to not take ourselves too seriously all the time. But let's get practical for a moment. For someone listening who's feeling really overwhelmed by, everything that's going on in the world right now, like their inner child's buried under a mountain of stress and uncertainty, what are some things they can do? What are some simple steps they can take to start reconnecting with that joyful essence?
Carol has some really beautiful and practical suggestions. Spending time in nature is a big one. Feeling the grass under your feet, listening to the birds, just being present in the moment. Engaging in creative activities that you genuinely enjoy, whether it's painting, dancing, writing, whatever lights you up.
Whatever gets that spark going.
Right. And sometimes it's as simple as just giving yourself permission to laugh, to be silly. You don't always have to be so serious.
It's about finding those moments of pure joy, pure lightness, and allowing ourselves to be present in those moments without judgment.
Exactly. And you know what? The more you allow yourself to experience joy, the more you'll attract it into your life. It's like a magnet.
I love that. Okay, I'm feeling more grounded already, more hopeful. So we've got this incredible potential of the new human emerging. We've got the power of the inner child to help us tap into our full potential and co-create this more joyful reality. But let's be honest, there's still a lot of scary stuff happening in the world. How do we reconcile these empowering concepts with the very real fear and uncertainty that a lot of people are feeling right now?
That's such an important question, and Carol doesn't shy away from acknowledging the very real challenges that we're facing. In fact, he even talks about the importance of being prepared, practically prepared for potential disruptions and challenges. But at the same time, he also emphasizes that we're not meant to live in a constant state of fear. We always have a choice.
A choice in how we respond, in how we channel our energy, and in what kind of world we want to create, even amidst the uncertainty.
Exactly. And you know what I find interesting? Sometimes it's in those moments of greatest uncertainty that the universe seems to send us the most powerful signs, those little winks and nudges to let us know we're not alone. Carol calls them synchronicities.
Those meant-to-be moments that send chills down your spine. Oh, we've all got those stories. What are some of the examples from the book that stood out to you?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. He talks about people getting phone calls at just the right time, or running into someone who ends up changing their lives, or even, finding something that they'd lost in the most impossible way. It's like these aren't just random coincidences. They're like the universe's way of saying, hey, I'm here, I'm listening, you're on the right track.
Okay, I love those stories. But how do you know? How do you know if something is a true synchronicity or just, a coincidence? It feels like a very fine line sometimes.
That's where trusting your intuition is so important. Does it feel different? Does it give you goosebumps? Do you feel like there's something more to it? Those are the cues. That's your inner guidance system speaking.
So it's about being open to the possibility that there's this deeper intelligence at play, even in those seemingly small, everyday moments.
Exactly. And here's another cool example from the book. Carol tells the story about a man named Philip who was so passionate about fishing. I mean, it was his thing. But it just never seemed to work out the way he hoped. And it wasn't until he finally surrendered to a different calling, one that was more about leadership and service, that he finally found his true path.
So sometimes those synchronicities, those nudges from the universe, they might lead us down paths we hadn't even considered before.
Absolutely. And it's in trusting those nudges, even when they're scary or take us out of our comfort zone, that we often discover our true purpose. It's like there's this bigger plan unfolding, and we each have a unique and important role to play in it.
It's such a powerful reminder to trust the journey, even when we don't have all the answers. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, how does this shift in consciousness, this merging of science and spirituality, how's it all impacting the way we think about healing, for example?
That's a great point. And, Carol talks about a whole new wave of healing tools and modalities that are emerging. Crystal healing, color therapy, sound healing. Have you ever explored any of those?
I've tried meditation and sound baths a few times. But honestly, part of me wonders if it's more about the placebo effect than anything else.
And that's totally fair. Healthy skepticism is a good thing. And Carol, he'd agree with you. It's not about blindly accepting everything as truth, right? It's about approaching these things with an open mind, trying them out, and seeing if they work for you. He's clear that it's not about ditching traditional medicine completely, more like recognizing that healing has so many different layers to it. It's the physical, of course, but also the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual aspects of ourselves.
Finding what works best for you.
Exactly. And the really interesting thing is, Carol even suggests that we can be active participants in our own healing, like consciously directing energy to specific parts of our bodies that need it.
I can see how that could be really powerful. But I also wonder, is it easy to get caught up in trying to force things to happen, like trying to control the healing process too much?
Absolutely. And there's a story Carol tells about a healer named John. And John, he was so focused on trying to fix people that he ended up completely burning himself out. He lost his connection to the very healing energy he was trying to channel.
It's like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. It was only when John finally slowed down, took care of himself, and reconnected to his own source of peace that his healing abilities came back even stronger.
It's a good reminder for all of us. Self-care isn't selfish. It's essential, especially if you want to help others. And that actually connects to another really interesting concept that Carol explores, which is karma.
Right. He talks about how as we evolve, as we become these new humans, we start to break free from old karmic patterns. We make more conscious choices, knowing that our actions have consequences, not as punishment or reward, but as this natural flow of energy.
Okay, so less about what goes around comes around, and more about understanding that our choices really do matter.
Exactly. And that brings us to, honestly, one of the most fascinating concepts in the book, something called morphic resonance. The basic idea is that we're all connected through a kind of collective consciousness, a field of energy and information. And get this, our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, they can actually influence that field, for better or worse.
So if enough people start to align with, say, more loving, compassionate energy, more service-oriented energy, it could actually create this ripple effect, like shift the entire planet in a more positive direction.
That's the idea. And honestly, I think we're already seeing signs of that happening all around us. Look at all the movements for social justice, for protecting the environment, for creating peace. These are all expressions of that collective awakening that Carol's talking about.
It's like we're moving from a me mentality to a we mentality, recognizing that we're all in this together.
Exactly. And within that shift, there's this beautiful message of forgiveness. Forgiveness for ourselves and forgiveness for others. Because we're all on our own journeys, right? Learning and evolving at our own pace.
And sometimes those journeys are messy. We make mistakes, we stumble. Sometimes we even hurt people, even if we don't mean to.
Of course, we're human after all. But instead of getting stuck in the guilt and shame, Carol encourages us to choose compassion, understanding, both for ourselves and for others.
And to see those experiences as opportunities for growth.
Yes, and that leads to a practice that Carol emphasizes throughout the book, gratitude. He suggests that by consciously focusing on what we're grateful for, we actually raise our vibration. And when our vibration is high, we attract more abundance and joy into our lives.
It's like that old saying, gratitude turns what we have into enough.
Exactly. And gratitude, it's not just about feeling good, it can actually be a really powerful catalyst for transformation. When we live with a grateful heart, we're more likely to treat ourselves, each other, and the planet with more respect, more kindness.
It's like gratitude lays the foundation for a better world. So, as we start to wrap up this deep dive into the alchemy of the human spirit, I'm curious, what's sticking with you? What feels most relevant in your own life right now?
You know, for me, it's that reminder that we're not just passive observers in this grand unfolding of life. We are active participants. We are creators. We have the power to choose our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. And in making those choices, we shape not just our own personal reality, but the collective reality that we all share.
It's such a powerful message, isn't it? We're not just waiting for someone or something to save us. The power to create change, it's within each and every one of us right here, right now. And as we step into that power, reconnect with our inner child, embrace our ability to co-create, and align with love and compassion, who knows what we can achieve together?
That's the exciting part. It's an open invitation. An invitation to step into our full potential, embrace the unknown, and co-create a future that reflects the very best of humanity. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. If you could wave a magic wand and create the world of your dreams, what would it look like? What one small step can you take today to start bringing that vision to life?